a word map of my book. And what's fascinating about it is if you look at the words that show up the most often, they have nothing to do with what you should do exactly tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. That's not my job. My job is to make you uncomfortable enough that you're not doing something, that you will start looking at the opportunities in front of you and find the path to get there. That the problem, the challenge that organizations of every stripe have isn't that they can't do this, it's that they're not sold on wanting to do it. And that what we need to do before we're going to get the leadership we deserve, the leadership that we need, is we're going to decide that we need the leadership. Once we decide we need it, we're going to find it. So you could put up statues. That's a tactic that works. It builds long-term, multi-generational tribes. But wait a minute. These guys don't have any statues. And they don't have any of the dogma that someone else might have, but it worked for them. You take a look at a politician. The first time Al Gore was out there trying to build a tribe, he failed and didn't end up getting the White House. The second time, he used a completely different set of tactics and changed the way the world thought about global warming. You might not know this, but more than 1,000 people have paid money, gone to Nashville, and been trained in how to give Al Gore's slideshow. And every single night, somewhere, dozens of people are giving it. That it grows. They teach other people how to give it, and it grows. Here are two tribe leaders. What exactly do they have in common? It's not clear to me that I could say, these tactics are right and these tactics aren't right, or vice versa. That the tactics aren't as important as the results that you get. So if I look at CrossFit, a group of slightly mentally unhinged people who do insane exercises in gyms at night, outdoors, in the dark, and that post pictures of themselves ripping tendons and hurting themselves and bleeding and calluses. The point is that they do it because they want to. And that Coach Gary, who leads the tribe, figured out how to work with this tribe the way this tribe needed to be worked with. And as a result, there's tens of thousands of people across the country. Every time he opens a new gym or one of his followers opens a gym, it's instantly sold out. The classes are full, not because he's talking to me or to you, but he's talking to somebody else who really needs to hear it. And he's leading them the way they need to be led. So this is Laura Fitton. How many of you follow Laura on Twitter? A bunch. So Laura, stay-at-home mom, 2 kids, starts Twittering a couple years ago. Now she has thousands of people following her, and she makes a really good living consulting about social media. With no fancy business cards, no office, she works from home, and she's raising 2 kids. Why? Because she figured out how to lead a group of 2 or 3 or 4,000 marketers online, 180 characters at a time. And that idea that the tactic doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook or a stamp. It doesn't matter if you're doing it over the PA system at a school or marching down the street in the developing world. The tactic isn't the key. The key is getting in sync with the people who are actually going to be connected. There's this great story that I talk about in the book. I almost called the book Positive Deviance, but then it would have been a totally different book. Jerry Sternin is a researcher, I think, out of Connecticut. And he went to Vietnam to help alleviate childhood starvation, hunger, diarrhea. And the traditional way to do that would be to show up with a bunch of studies, a bunch of powdered milk, a bunch of money, and tell the people in the village in Vietnam exactly what to do. But what Jerry did instead is he and his partner went there and looked at the village until they found a family that was doing great, a family that wasn't malnourished, a family where the kids were doing fine. And he said to that woman, come, teach the people at the next hut. Teach the people over here. Teach the whole village. By finding a deviant who stands out by being better, not by being worse, and giving that deviant a platform, he led from the bottom up. Not a good expression, bottom up, but it's the best way I have to talk about it. That is where real leadership happens. That what's been fascinating for me with the tribe is my temptation was to do everything. And to say to do this, and to do this, and to do this, because I'm a leader, that's what I'm supposed to do. And I forced myself not to do that. And as a result, we're talking about thousands and tens of thousands of posts and hundreds of groups. We're talking about being online at Sunday morning at 4:30, and there were 31 other people there. Right? That these folks, you, stood up and said, I want to lead this little bit, I want to lead this little bit. And many failures occurred. But that's okay, because no one really saw those. But when successes happened, when the positive deviants stepped up, it was easy to shine a light on them. It was easy to say, look what this person did, and look what that person did. And so the tribe gets stronger. If I look online at Etsy, Etsy is giving eBay a run for its money in the handmade crafts business. What you notice is that the people who sell on Etsy do a lot of the buying on Etsy. That the providers are also the buyers. What you notice is if you go to Etsy and become a new seller, ostensibly you're competition for the old sellers. But the old sellers will rush over and tell you how to do it better. That what has been built here is a very lightweight, from a top-down point of view, tribe. Or, this is the Longaberger Basket Company. This is actually their headquarters. It looks like a basket. And the people who collect Longaberger baskets are also the people who sell Longaberger baskets. And they're obsessed with it just as much as the Etsy people are obsessed with what they're selling. What it comes down to is what Kevin Kelly talked about. This might be the whole world, but all you need is 1,000 true fans. All you need are 1,000 people who will cross the street for you, who will show up, not sure why, who will pre-order that item without actually understanding all its implications, because they're insiders. They're the ones you've persuaded. So if you're an author and you can't get 100 people to love your book enough to tell their friends, then you shouldn't publish your book. It doesn't matter how many blurbs you get, it doesn't matter how much bookstore display you get. If you can't get 100 people, you lose. That's a really hard thing for a lot of marketers to get through their head. So I'm going to let you think about that for a second. So, I want to give you a couple examples of what's worked and what hasn't, and the thinking behind it, because I hope you'll see the variety that's here. This is one of my favorite examples to talk about, and now that my wife doesn't work at Audible/Amazon anymore, I'm allowed to talk about it. This is a Kindle, and it could have been an unbelievable home run. And maybe one day Jeff will make it that, but right now it's just an ebook reader. It's an ebook reader that I have to use by myself. And that the only way it sells is when someone likes it enough that they tell 2 or 3 of their good friends, you should get one too. And generally we're finding that women are the ones who are doing that, and most of the people who use a Kindle are women. But wait a minute. They had such an opportunity to lead and connect a tribe. Book readers are only 5% of the population. We're desperately looking for other book readers all the time. So why isn't it that I can get one of these for everyone in my book group, and as I'm reading, I can see what they're saying on each page about what I just read? Why can't I make it so that as a business person, when I look at business books to buy on the Kindle, I can't sort them by percentage of the book read before the person stopped reading it? Right? Why can't the whole thing turn into a communications platform that happens to have books as its fuel? Because if he had done that, if they had launched the Kindle that way, it would have become the essential element for all the people in the tribe. Because you needed to know what the other people were thinking. You desperately want to be connected. If there's only 400 people who read an obscure Ukrainian novel, don't you want to know who the other 400 people are, at least what they think of what you just read? You're dying to know who read that book that you just read, so that you can share, but you can't right now. Not with this, and not with a paper book. Part of the reason this is hard is because being a leader means doing something worth being criticized for. And your whole life, you've been told not to do that. 1st grade, 2nd grade, 4th grade, 8th grade, 12th grade, don't wear that costume for Halloween. People might